Self-discipline is one of those highly revered abilities, like being part of a team, or hanging in there, or hating Mondays. But the philosopher Michel Foucault offers a different approach to defining discipline. He calls discipline a mechanism of power meant to regulate the behavior of individuals in a social body. According to Foucault, discipline is enforced through complex systems of surveillance. Most famously, he discusses the panopticon. Foucault uses Jeremy Bentham's model of the panoptic prison to demonstrate the nature of power relations in terms of discipline. Bentham describes an institution in which a central tower is surrounded on all sides by cells. The design allows a minimal staff located at the top of the tower to survey any cell at any given time. This staff's presence must be unverifiable. The inmate must never know whether he is being looked at any one moment, but he must be sure that he may always be so. The people in the tower, if there are any, are given the illusion of omnipresence by remaining unseen. At any given moment, those at the top of the tower could be watching you, so you assume they are. When the authority is present and visible, the opportunity to avoid the empowered gaze is possible. Because they assume they are being watched, however, prisoners are less likely to violate the rules of the prison. The threat of punishment and its apparent inevitability leads to self-discipline. In other words, if the prisoners know they'll be punished for violations, they don't need to be told to behave by those in charge. Now, keep in mind that Bentham himself called the panoptic prison a mill for grinding rogues honest, implying that it's meant to rehabilitate through psychological torture, but that's another video. So, outside of the prison model, we know we aren't always being watched. How do those at the top monitor the masses who would rise up and overthrow them or whatever? Well, Foucault argues that the household and the economic family unit is critical in the reproduction of self-discipline. Within a family, just as without, there's a hierarchy of power in place. The heads of the household hold economic power over the other members, and just like any other structure of power, there are rules, potentially unique to that household, but there's also a deference to the rules of society at large. Even though the household may appear to be an independent fixture that's simply situated in a society, it's more effective to think of it as part of a whole. Foucault compares the individual household to the prison cell. Even though the household has a greater potential for privacy, the ideologies, tenets, and expectations of the society in which it is located pervade and alter the space. But Foucault's ideas extend even further to anywhere the hierarchy of power is in place, including corporations, hospitals, the military, and schools. In a classroom, for instance, the teacher is responsible for discipline through observation, but can't possibly watch every student at all times, and can't maintain the illusion of observation that a panoptic institution offers. But the teacher's ability to observe is expanded through the eyes of some students. Since they understand that rule violations need to be punished, these students will report their classmates' misbehavior when it goes unnoticed by the authority figure. Of course, doing so has its own consequences, as those students have to answer to the complex structures of power of their social world. Still, the threat of being reported by a peer means that even when the teacher's surveillance is absent, the would-be rule breakers know that they are being watched and they adjust their behavior appropriately. But Foucault's ideas extend even further to conceptual institutions of power. For example, a societal body contains certain expectations for body image, and so the individuals of that social body try to conform to that image. Even though it is not a written rule, there are consequences for not conforming to that image. In this case, the surveillance comes from everyone. So, if surveillance is so impossible to escape, why do people break rules when they know there will be consequences? Well, that's partly because the systems of power are never as simple as guard watches prisoner, prisoner obeys. Even in a prison, conforming to all the rules of the prison might have unsavory consequences from the other prisoners. Those prison mates all act as surveillance for the enclosed social body of the prisoner community. The prison staff has rules, but so do those prisoners. Fitting in can mean following the rules of the prisoners. Not fitting in can sometimes be worse than breaking the official rules of the prison. Nancy Hartsock offers a criticism of Foucault that further explains why people break rules. She argues that Foucault treats individuals as docile bodies, subjects of power rather than active agents. She says Foucault fails to address people's ability to resist structures of power. Since women are not at the top of social power hierarchies, this failure dooms women to perpetual oppression. She explains that in Foucault's work, women are not in power and are unable to resist power, so change is impossible. Ultimately, Foucault's explanation of self-discipline highlights the connection between power and behavior. The use of the panopticon points out the complexity of systems of surveillance. We can't always know who's monitoring our behavior, just as we're not always aware of how we monitor the behavior of others. What is clear is that the self-discipline is only part of the system by which differences in power are made clear and exploited.